Call to order a regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Goshen Central School District for today, Monday, February 7th. Today's meeting is being held in the District Administration Building and live streamed through YouTube. Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of meditation. Please keep in your thoughts Emily Gouillet, started as a second grade teacher in 1962, became a reading specialist in 1974, and worked for the district for 21 years. Terry Hopp worked for the district for 33 years. As both a fourth grade and fifth grade teacher. She started in 1953. And Jacqueline Lyons, she worked at the district for 21 years. Also a fourth and fifth grade teacher. She started in 1950.
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is recognitions and presentations. Mark Bogart, longtime board member here in the district, over 30 years, 35 years. Presenting for vote.
May I permitted to? Thank you. Well, I look forward to talking about policies with you. A few years ago, we all decided that we needed to come out and meet with component districts regarding our programs. We felt that it would personalize them and that we would learn more about them. I will try to be as brief as possible. Technical services, the division of technical services. Oh, you all will be getting these three, I refer to them as flashcards. Technical services helps districts implement and upgrade their programs. We do consortium purchasing, which means we not only bid for the 17 components in our OUBOCES, but we combine with the other OUBOCES and we get a better price on things. The main goal we set was data privacy this year, and I know last year Mike brought it up at the table that one of the things he was concerned about was the data privacy. And we actually had a video presentation by OUBOCES at that time where they addressed the steps they had taken to achieve good data process on our network. And the most important thing we did in relation to this, we created a position that is called a shared data privacy analyst. And basically they will be working with 17 component districts so that these districts will become compliant with New York State Ed Law 2D. Moving on to special education, we have 5 different programs: the John Flannery High School and Middle School, the Raymond Kramer School, Liberty Elementary School, Strive program, and also the Arden Health Campus of Margaret Flood High School and Middle School. And the goals we set for this program this year, we want to be able to empower all students with the knowledge and skills to become successful individuals in the world as they go on. Of course, in March 2020, we suddenly had to go remote. And we were very concerned about how we were going to carry out some of the elements of this program. So a group of administrators, teachers, and paraprofessionals packed boxes full of materials. And many of our programs are, they use manipulatives and a variety of other materials. And they packed the boxes with those materials. And then a big UPS truck came over and delivered 600 boxes to the different students at home. And we were so relieved and happy that our board, and we started to hear from the parents how excited the children were about these materials that had arrived. And also we got that feedback that it really helped the parents in their task of doing the remote instruction. And many of the packets in there were individualized to the student. And we were exceptionally proud about this. It was a very big undertaking, but well worthwhile. Moving on to career and technical education, known as our CTEC program. We have 12 different academies, and they provide practical things that prepare our students for future jobs. The goal we set this year for us is to have more engagement with students, parents, schools, the community, and our business partners. And we happen to have right now 187 businesses that partner with us. And they do twofold. They are very good at helping us find out what we need to add to our programs. They are advisory. For example, in the field, they may notice some new skill that we aren't teaching currently, and they will have us do that. And that constantly makes our programs better. And they also provide a wide variety of opportunities for our students. Clinical rotations, job shadowing, first-hand job experience. And every year we celebrate these partners by we have a partner breakfast, which of course is done by our culinary kids. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that for the last 2 years. We have our fingers crossed for this May. There's an old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to turn it now over to Jim.
It is exactly as it sounds. Enrolled students will receive technical training, learning professional skills through hands-on instruction in a wide variety of essential and high-demand occupations. What makes it so special? Number 1, this education comes from real professionals using real equipment in real-world environments. This is a real opportunity. It is highly unlikely that in your lifetime you will ever be offered something like this again. Number 2, while attending these courses, you will not only be gaining credits towards your high school diploma, but you can also earn credits towards college and receive national industry certifications and professional licensing. Number 3, as if that weren't enough, students will also participate in work-based internships and apprenticeships, get involved in community service projects, competitions, and clubs. Now that we see how awesome CTE can be, let's see what courses they have to offer. Courses are categorized into 12 different career academies, which break down into 34 focused courses. And they are:
Appearance Careers Academy has 2 programs, cosmetology and aesthetics.
Construction Careers Academy offers 4 trade-based programs: carpentry, electrical construction, HVAC and plumbing, and welding.
Culinary Careers Academy has one focus program, Culinary Food Trades. The Education Careers Academy offers two programs, one in Early Childhood Development and Care, and the other in Education and Management.
The Environmental Careers Academy, which consists of two programs, Animal Science and Veterinary Assistance, and the operation of heavy equipment.
Health Careers Academy is CTE's largest program, offering 7 specialized programs.
Allied Health Assistant,
Dental Assistant,
EMS Technician,
Exercise Science and Sports Medicine,
Nurse Assistant,
Principles of Health Occupations,
and Pharmacy Technician.
Security Careers Academy includes two programs, Fire Science and Law Enforcement.
STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. This academy offers 4 programs: Computer Networking, Computer Programming, Engineering Design and Architecture, and Mechatronics and Robotic Engineering.
Transportation Careers Academy includes these 3 programs: Auto Body and Restoration, Automotive Technology, and Aviation.
Visual Arts Career Academy offers 3 programs, Digital Design and Advertising, Digital Filmmaking and Post-Production, and Fashion Interior Design.
Not bad, right? Look, whether you're just testing the waters or getting an early jump on your destined career path, OUBOCES CTE division is committed to your enlightenment. And through actual real-life experience, you can make your visions of the future a reality. Applications for CTE programs are available at your school's guidance office, and with the help of your school guidance counselor, you will be on your way.
If you want to achieve better results, make a great impression, and save time at work, you should get Grammarly.
With Grammarly, it's like I have my own personal editor on every email or message or essay that I write, and it's free to download.
Before I got Grammarly, I could sense that people didn't understand what I was trying to communicate in my emails. I was too wordy. Now, I get my point across clearly.
I catch embarrassing grammar and spelling errors before I hit send.
We have a 2-year program.
I'm very straightforward, so the tone suggestions help me make sure that I'm not unintentionally coming across too harsh.
I got Grammarly. It took 2 minutes to set up, and instantly I could see it making my writing better everywhere I type.
It helps me make my messages clear and crisp and just overall more effective.
Imagine what would happen if everything you wrote was a little bit better. All those small improvements really add up over time.
If you don't have Grammarly, try for free today.
Different designs and things to actually create. Because we have 3D printers, we have CNC mills, we have laser cutters to produce all of the cool stuff that you guys come up with. During that year, we use Autodesk Inventor, which is a full 3D
You booked a sunny Verbo ski chalet with endless views of snow-covered peaks. But the thing they'll remember forever? Grandpa coming out of retirement to give a few ski lessons. The time to plan your get-together is now. Find it on Verbo.
Design even tiny houses and things like that. And we'll even try to team up with some of the construction programs that we have here to build some of the designs we come up with.
In my opinion, hello, and welcome to the Rockland BOCES Career and Technical Education Center located in West Nyack. My name is Tim Bell, and I'm the director of these amazing programs. For over 60 years, we have been fueling the economy of Rockland County by offering programs that vary from automotive to welding. I have a lot to show you today, so please come on in. Services and also our work-based coordinator. CTEC students have a lot
Hello students, welcome to Dental Careers. I'm Mrs.
School counselors.
I will be your dental instructor
daily
for the
to work with students on everything from program changes.
The dental program is a competitive and challenging program designed to prepare the students for a popular and growing profession where they can obtain a dental assisting job after graduation. Through hands-on experience, students will master the craft of four-handed dentistry, taking digital x-rays, taking impressions, participating in whitening procedures, infection control and sterilization, and so much more. Working in the mouth is not for everyone, but doesn't mean you have to miss out on our program because we give the foundation and skills students need to also work as patient care coordinators, where they can show off their knowledge of dentistry and still get to interact with patients and dental professionals. Many of our students graduate and work as dental assistants while attending college to pursue further education in dental assisting, dental hygiene, general dentistry, and other specialized studies.
Okay, now we're on to business services.
Innovative teaching tools and hands-on methods.
You want to get of Bill Heck and Cooperative Board, if you'd like to come and visit BOCES and tour, all you have to do is contact Bill's office, or if you'd like, if there's a specific program you'd like to see, you can also do that. So thank you very much for allowing me to do the presentation to you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Next on the agenda, the Board of Education acknowledges the Treasurer's Report for December 2021. Next on the agenda, we have privilege of the floor. First on our list is Tanner Conklin.
So, my name is Tanner Conklin. I'm currently a Life Scout in 263 here in Goshen. I'm working on my EBOOK project, which is what I'm going to be presenting today. This is just a copy of the proposal. So it's a project that's going to be happening up at CJ Hooker in one of the courtyards, the one that's off of the faculty room, and it will be an area to help partially restore and beautify the courtyard, where in one corner we're going to have a small Zen garden of sorts with a running water feature that's solar powered, and a bunch of different Zen materials and benches around it, so you can go out there and unwind. And then the other corner, we're hoping to add a garden that in cases like science, including earth science and biology, along with a weather station, bird houses, bird feeders, weather gauges, a bird bath and a sundial. It's just help students connect to nature and be able to go out. So I just wanted to come here tonight and present that and ask if you guys had any questions.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Now we congratulate you on your progress so far, and good luck on this project here. I think we're all excited to see your project when it's finished. Maybe come back.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be happening this summer at some point.
Excellent.
I just need your approval and I can start going to my Eagle board and start doing all my spots for it.
Excellent. I think I speak on behalf of everybody here. You got our approval.
Thanks.
Thank you. us is Christy Grine.
That's the greatness of being early for something. All right, so I'm never early. Okay, so I have a sign at home, and it says, "Peace begins with a smile." Would it be appropriate to come here and say that without showing you my smile? I think all of us as a community have endured a lot. I appreciate, again, any volunteers that you've had probably the worst, span of time, and I appreciate it once again. It's our intention today to come and speak from a emotional, educational, legal standpoint on the mask mandate. So tonight I would just like to ask the board and the districts to advocate in your state to allow optional mask wearing in schools regardless of vaccination status. And please return the voice and the smiles back to our community. It's quite difficult to not be emotional about this, as I'm sure it is for you as well. But coming from a place of working in the psychological field for over 20 years, the impact will be very difficult, but not impossible to come back from. So I welcome whoever else we have with us tonight.
Lauren Weinstein.
Weinstein.
Weinstein, sorry.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too. So we'd like this to be entered into the public record. Masks are unregulated, untested, and pose health risks to our students, as well as being ineffective at stopping the spread of COVID-19. They are not source control, they don't work, and never did. Since masks are being mandated in order to have educational access in the school building, then surely you should be willing to test every student's mask daily to make sure it is clean and clear of pathogens. This would pass an ethics committee. As elected officials, you have an obligation to the safety of the students, and you are accountable to the taxpayers. You have a legal responsibility to do what is best for the students. You may not do anything that will cause harm to them, even if it is a mandate coming from the governor or the DOH or the NICED. We know as parents that the mask mandates are causing harm. As a parent and a teacher, I see that most children are experiencing a variety of negative effects. The CDC now admits that the masks we have all been wearing for the past 2 years are worthless. It is up to you to make sure that any and all regulations you impose on our children are backed by science. There must be metrics and data provided. Without the emergency powers or any other authority to do it, Governor Hochul initiated Regulation 10.2.6. Since she initiated it, it has been amended and extended illegally. She did not go through the proper processes for extensions or amendments. Governor Hochul, the DOH, and NICED currently are working to amend their regulations to include quarantine detention centers, vaccines being given in schools by school nurses, permanent mask mandates, and is expanding the list of required vaccines with no limit. It's open-ended. They will be able to add a vaccination requirement at any time. They are circumventing the legislative process. There are no checks and balances here. All of these departments are under the executive branch. Unfortunately, public comment closed today to voice your for this. We would like you to take a vote. We need to know where you stand on the masks. I'm confident that the percentage of families that want masks to be optional is larger than those who want them required. Anybody can wear a mask if they want to. We're asking for it to be an option. We would like you to write a letter to our county executive, Steve Newhouse, and ask him to help you take back local control. Tell him where you stand and ask him to help us make any changes necessary to get there. We've been trying to contact him. He doesn't really respond. We would like you to write a letter to Governor Hochul, the DOH, on the NICED. Follow Warwick and Massapequa's lead. They did send her a powerful message. They explained that they're keeping students safe, but it is the masks that are causing the challenges to students' physical and mental health. We are one of a handful of states left with mask mandates. As we speak, New Jersey is lifting their mandates, and Illinois just lifted theirs. The states that have lifted their restrictions are actually doing better than we are in New York. We are one of the most vaccinated and mandated states in the country, and still our numbers are highest. Things are not adding up. It's time to demand answers and changes. We owe it to our children. We support you, we stand with you, and we want to work with you to help us get to the other side of this. I have included a link to 150 studies showing the harmful and ineffectiveness of masks.
Thank you. Do you want to give that to Maureen to go on the record?
Sorry?
Do you want to give that to Maureen to go on the
Oh,
record?
yes, sure. Sorry.
Lauren, I also have it printed if you want to hand it in.
It's okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Do you have copies?
I have one copy. Is that okay? You guys want
It's not
it?
the exact, it's not the exact, I switched it up a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, but, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Elizabeth Messi. How do I do?
Hello.
How do I do it on last name? Messi?
Yes. We've met before, but I was that lady on the iPhone previously.
Oh, yeah.
So I know you. Hello, principals, hello, parents. I have a speech prepared, but I think I'm just gonna wing it. I'm nervous. You know, it's our children. It's about the mask mandates. It's affecting them emotionally, mentally. It's delaying their educational needs. I'm seeing it in my kids. I have 6 in all 4 of our schools. Thank you, principals. We'll have a messy in your classroom for years to come. My son just graduated and he's in the Air Force. And I'm seeing in my 7th grader, he's in the kindergarten level, he's in 2nd grade. All right, there's no AIS services for kindergarten. We do not have AIS for kindergarten right now. Why? Because our 1st and 2nd graders are so delayed. The kids need to see the teachers speak. They need to see pronunciation. They need to see smiles, faces. We need to see it. I know everyone in here feels the way I do. We are fed up with this. We followed the guidance for 2 years. All right, we did everything we possibly could to protect our loved ones, our neighbors, and our friends, and it's not working. My kids have all had COVID. They've all been isolated and quarantined this year at least twice. One of them has had COVID twice in 94 days. The only place that she attends is school and home. Okay? The masks do not work. We need our kids to be normal. Our education, we were taught in schools without masks. We had normalcy. Our kids deserve that. They deserve to have what we have. We need to stand up for this. The Supreme Court ruled, and guess what? It lit a fire in us parents again. We know this is against our constitutional rights, and we have to fight for our kids. I'm pleading with the board to stand up, write a letter to Governor Hochul. Us parents back you. We support our board. And I know our board wants what's best for our children, so we're pleading with you, please do this on behalf of our kids. Let's give them back the education they deserve. Let's give them the friendship, playmates, classrooms, all that they need, the extra attention, they need the interaction, they need to be kids again. Let's give them back to childhood. Thank you. Zelma?
Can't say that loud.
Zelma.
I'll help you, the J is silent, it's Kusanova.
Kusanova.
So I'm probably gonna say exactly what every mom or dad or grandma is here to say, but I am kind of by the paper type of person. So firstly, I do wish you guys would vote to reach out to Hochul, however she pronounces it, and Stephen Newhouse and DOH and ISAT. But I will start with my letter. So, let me start by saying thank you for your amazing effort and all the work you put into keeping our schools open. We have a beautiful, giving, and caring community. I am proud to raise my children here. When COVID hit, we all came together. We helped each other in any way we could. We followed all we were told to do to get through this. Remember, 2 weeks to slow the spread, right? Our children's schools were closed, our businesses were closed, our jobs were paused, our lives were disrupted, yet we still said we're all in this together and kept pushing through. It is now 2 years of this, and while I'm grateful that my children get to attend school, it is far from what school really is or what it should be. With the exception of preschool, my younger children who are here today, who brought masks because they were terrified not to wear them. With the exception of their preschool, yes, I said that, my children have no idea what regular school days or year really is. They come home immediately ripping off their masks and barely ever have anything happy much to say about their day. which I know children regularly can be this way. But it is followed by, I can barely breathe in this mask. It hurts my ears, Mom. How come grown-ups don't have to wear their masks for hours every day? I could go on and on and on. Their spirits are down. And with the exception of fun school events, which I'm so grateful for, like the 100 Days of School that's coming up, they're never really happy to go to school. I attempted the homeschooling for 2 weeks and unfortunately had to stop because I have a mother who's in her 50s with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I'm all she's got, even though I have other siblings and all that. But they deserved school, so I sent them back. I trusted you guys. And now they're begging me to stay home because of this, because they can't hug their friends and they can't high five. I think it's sad at this point. We can learn to do this like we do with flu and like everything else. Okay, my daughter, who's usually happy, energetic, and free sleeping, has changed. She says she can only communicate and partner with one child a week in her class, okay? Some teachers are taking this to a really far extent. And she says they're not allowed to cheer with their mouths. She said, Mom, I'm only allowed to use my hands. That is sad. She's 5. Okay, I can barely get them to quiet down. I don't know how this teacher is getting them to not say anything. Oh my God. These are mandates and they're not laws. They're destroying our children's childhood. Kids are meant to socialize, share, hug, high five one another, we've been through that. Kids are feeling this greatly. Now who's to say what other emotional and psychological effects it may have on them later in life? What are we doing to them, and when is enough? Thank you so much for your time.
Michelle? Michelle Garland? Okay.
Hi, thanks for allowing our participation today. I first want to extend my utmost respect and support to all the Goshen teachers who've been doing their best throughout this pandemic. You've taught through 2 of what will most likely be the most difficult years of your careers. 4 years ago, I put my own elementary teaching career on hold to be home with my 2 children after teaching for 10 years in a neighboring school district. So I guess you could say that during these last couple of years, I tried to look at this pandemic school situation through both my teacher and my parent lenses. To the teachers, even if some of you are in our audience today or you know any personally, I can't even imagine what you must be going through each day. You come to work forced to mask not just your faces, but your own personal ideas and opinions too. You've been forced to police your students while encouraging social distancing and discouraging social norms. Those students who once skipped their way into your classrooms each morning with smiling faces are more likely than not dragging their feet over the threshold now, their love for school suffocating behind tightly bound cloth. Again, teachers, I commend you. But first and foremost, now I'm a parent. My job now is to protect my children who are here with me today. I have a 3rd grader and a 1st grader. Can you guys smile so everyone can see how beautiful your smiles are? You know, my son knocked his teeth out when he was 2. It took him almost 4 years to grow those 7 back. And then we can't even show them off. So I feel like their rights, it's my job to protect them when I feel like their rights are being violated. That is why I'm here tonight. I wholeheartedly disagree with this school district's stance on the mask mandate. If I take my children to the supermarket, we don't wear masks. When we go to a restaurant, we don't wear masks. Out to the hardware store, no masks. Bowling this weekend, no masks. And no one at these places of business questioned us. Not one. Why? Because even though our state has issued a mandate, these places recognize that 1, it's not a law, and 2, as citizens, we have the right and a choice when it comes to masks. So why should our schools be any different? Now I could continue to tell you more about how I feel about my children being masked, but I'm not the one who is being affected. They are. So I'll let their own words speak for themselves tonight. My son has this picture, which he drew of himself throwing a mask into a garbage bin. And he says, and I quote, "I do not like the masks because my mouth feels uncomfortable and because we had to wear them for too long. I always feel like I want to take my mask down since we don't go outside in the cold and don't get mask breaks because of that. I do not like the masks." My daughter, who has a picture of masks going in a recycling bin, so they're teaching that. "I think that us people should have the right to choose to wear a mask. I don't like masks because they make it hard to breathe and make it so people have a hard time hearing you. They also make my face itch a lot. I think masks should be choosable. I rest my case," she says. I think my daughter puts it best when she says that masks should be a choice. We're not here today to have it solely one way or the other. What we want is for our Goshen district to stand up and allow us parents to make the choice for what we think is best for our children. We fight for them, and we hope you will too. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the President's report. So obviously, we've gotten numerous communications regarding mask mandates. Both sides of the ledger, obviously, we get emails on both sides and phone calls. We did put out a communication regarding our Board of Ed's policy or our thoughts on masks, which is a free choice. We're waiting for updates to Dr. Coates giving us updates to the state on the state situation, so we'll keep everybody updated on that. I know there's been a letter going around from different districts. I forwarded that letter out to everybody. Obviously, everybody was here, but I guess we'd send the letter out, so I'll open that up for a little discussion here. If we want to move in that direction.
Yes.
So I think we'll work with Dr. Coates to pen a letter. I don't know if it's going to be exactly like the letter about, I think we saw Warwick recently and some going around. But I don't, certain things in there I think weren't really written properly. Just, you can work with Dr. Coates in that direction. Anybody have opposition to that? I didn't think so. So we'll work on that. For everybody in here, we'll be working on that letter. Again, I'll restate our board is a free choice board. So whenever we can get the legal advisor to let us do so, we will. Other issues that come to the Board of Ed is, I know there's a lunch petition going around. There's some communication about lunches. I think Dr. Coates has met with that group with Alan. Okay, so we'll keep everybody updated on that. I think better lunches is everybody's goal there, if we can. I know there's a lot of restrictions and we need to purchase those lunches yet. But anything we can do to improve it for the kids is something that I think we're all in favor for. I'll take a break here if anybody wants to leave. I know there are little kids out there. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. If you wanted to go, you can go. Next on the agenda is the legislative update. Yeah.
I don't really have anything right now. In the next 2 weeks, there's 5 different meetings with different legislators, so I'll have more information after that.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent. Dr. Coates.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to work backwards in my report tonight, if that's okay with the board. Late last week, I forwarded you a draft copy, believe it or not, of the 22-23 school year calendar. The school year provides for 184 school days, 2 conference days, for a total of 186 days. Essentially, that provides us with 6 emergency closing days if need be, Obviously, the 2 conference days are front-loaded into the beginning of the school year, so once those days are back, or once those days are gone, we wouldn't be able to reclaim those back if we had to have any emergency weather closings, anything related to the school closings. So essentially, we'd have 4 snow days, if you will, once we got into the winter season. Then we would have to look at what holidays or what spring recess days we would want to claw back. I believe we would start in April, obviously looking at spring break. Then we could look at Memorial Day, heaven forbid we have to go that far. The new holiday in June, we are not able to take back. That is a required holiday. I hope we're never in that situation where we have to reclaim that many days, but obviously that's the sequence it's going. This calendar provides for the day after Easter off. We would also have an early dismissal the day before Thanksgiving, and it has several of the other holidays for the year, and it also has the day after New Year's as closing as well. So if there were no concerns about this or items for discussion, we do have it as an action item for the board to approve for tonight, but if there are concerns, obviously we could pull it off and make the amendments and come back at the next meeting for the board to approve the calendar.
That's a one question. So we could take Memorial Day back if we had to?
So you can technically pull that holiday back. Believe it or not, it's unconventional, but there's been, when we had the hurricane on Long Island, and some schools were closed for weeks at a time without any relief from state ed. They had their minimum number of attendance days. There were schools that had to pull all the breaks back, literally everything on the calendar to meet the minimum requirement.
Thank you.
It's unconventional, but it's been done. I will say attendance was low in those days. Okay. Mrs. Farrell, if you could help me get the presentation up on the front screen. On pivot, but so believe it or not, we are in the position now where we are starting to discuss the 22-23 school year budget. Go to the first slide. So one of the things I wanted to start with this evening was taking a look at our enrollment. If you travel around the region and to other parts of the Mid-Hudson Valley, you'll see school districts that are having huge swings in enrollment. And when I say swings, major decreases in their enrollment. If you do a 4-year look back in the district enrollment here, you're going to see that we're somewhat stable. While we saw a decrease to enrollment midway through the pandemic, we're starting to see recovery. Families that had made choices to go to private schools, to homeschool, as we heard similar tonight, we're starting to see that recovery happen. I've had conversations as I'm a member of the local Chamber of Commerce with new housing starts that exist within the district. We do anticipate, based on the trends that we're seeing, and we have a BOCES demographer that does our enrollment projection, for the district enrollment to stay somewhat stable for the foreseeable future. We're not expecting any huge fluctuations with our enrollment. Most notable in the budget is to look at what we are expecting on the revenue side of our budget. If you are familiar, obviously for many years, the foundation aid formula that currently exists as law has been grossly underfunded, and this goes back at least 12 to 15 years. When budgets collapsed back in around the time of 2008, there were huge reductions in the foundation aid formulas to public schools around the state. The legislature and the governor have made a resolution to fully fund the foundation aid formula as it stands. Now, that doesn't mean at some point that they couldn't change the aid formula. What does that translate for Goshen? We are going to see our revenue from a state aid perspective, as we have, increase dramatically over the next 2 years. We have a huge restoration. We were underfunded to the tune of the formula of roughly almost 40%. We are going to see significant increases over the next 2 years in our foundation aids, And you'll see that follows the statewide trend here. If you look at the governor's proposal for the 22-23 school year, the foundation aid increase to public schools is almost double what CPI is to fully fund schools and what the average inflation rate is as well. Again, just looking at it from a perspective of how have they chosen to fund it, they've graduated it in over the last 2 years, and by the time we reach 23-24, the legislature and the governor have still committed to making sure that the foundation aid formula is fully funded. Again, depending that the legislature doesn't make a move to change or amend the formula the way that it is written. So dollar for dollar, what does that translate into for us moving forward? Again, this gives you a historical perspective on what we have seen in terms of, and again, when we talk about from a revenue perspective, we're not talking about local taxes here. We're not talking about what we ask the community for. This comes from the state of New York. We're obviously seeing a significant increase this year, almost to the tune of about $1 million increase. And as I've shown you on the last slide, that also should follow true for next year, pending that the governor and the legislature still again follow through on fully funding the foundation aid formula. So again, just a quick recap. Our foundation aid, dollar for dollar, is approximately $24.5 million, which is a significant portion of our annual budget. One thing to keep in mind too is the current tax cap formula that exists within the state of New York. And when we talk about the tax cap formula, we need to remember it's not a 2% cap, it's a 2% cap on the levy year over year. So what does that mean when we put our budget up for vote? If we want to stay below, at or below our maximum amount of our allowable levy with the budget that we propose, when we put the budget before the community, we would need a simple majority, or 50% plus one vote, for the budget to be approved for that fiscal year. If we were to go above the maximum amount of the allowable levy, again, you would need a supermajority at that point, 60% of the voting population that came to vote. If our vote produces a rejection of the budget, the district can opt to put the same budget up, revise the budget. But if we put the budget up a second time after that and the budget is voted down, we must revert to the prior year's tax levy. And that's very important for us to remember. Obviously, we all know expenses never stay the same unless we're making significant cuts to the operating budget. So if our levy stays exactly the same, it would result in us having to go back and reduce significantly expenses for the year. So where are we again here early in the process on February 7th? What do we know? Again, we're currently assuming roughly $24.5 million for projected revenue from state aid. We know that the current tax cap calculation has not changed. There's been no amendment to the tax cap. The bigger portion is how do we determine how we're going to balance this budget? We're working right now with the district administration and the building principals to make decisions on staffing. Again, talking about enrollment and some of the things that we heard tonight in terms of needs for support services. Do we need to add? Do we need to change positions? Do we need to rethink positions? That will occur over the course of this budget process. Do we need to make any modifications or changes to our current curriculum or instructional program? Do we need to look at any phase-in of new programs? Do we need to make any additions or the things that are outdated? Instructional technology, the district has made a heavy commitment to make sure that our students have the most up-to-date technology in their hands and in our classrooms. This comes at a significant cost. We've been meeting with our technology team to look at a one-to-one policy where we put a device in the hands of a student in 5th grade if the family chooses to take it. They would keep it for 4 years, and we would put a device in the hands of a 9th grader, and they would keep it for 4 years. Again, this comes at a cost, and we need to make sure that we're budgeting appropriately to be able to do so. Similarly, there's many ongoing conversations when you talk about students from the perspective of grades K through 4 about what the developmental appropriateness is of the device that you put in their hands at those levels. Sometimes that involves a tablet, sometimes that involves different devices. And again, the district has made a heavy commitment to that, and we want to make sure that our budget reflects that as well. One of the things that I shared with the board earlier, and you heard this on the first draft of the budget that you had heard earlier this year, was regarding purchases of vehicles for transportation. Historically, the board and the district have made the decision when we purchase new vehicles to borrow for those vehicles. We have the option to assume some of those purchases within the operating budget, and before we finalize the budget to propose to the community, we'll need to make sure that we reflect on that appropriately. One of the things that is on for your approval tonight is obviously the retirement of some of our old vehicles. We want to make sure that the fleet that we have can continue to serve the community both for in-district obligations and where we're transporting students outside of the district as well. One of the things that we have had ongoing conversations with is really in relation to our facilities. Obviously, the board is contemplating putting a small capital improvement project on for approval for the community at the time of the budget vote. We also need to consider what else do we want to invest within our facility. There's always needs in terms of roofs, plumbing, repaving, electrical, windows, maintenance of this building. There's always things that need to be addressed. It's just like owning a home. We need to make sure that we are planning appropriately to address those needs as we move forward. And really, where does all this culminate? And it really comes down to that last bullet. Obviously, we're recovering from the effects of the major health pandemic. People's lives have been affected, both personally and financially. Ultimately, all of these decisions will result in what are we going to ask for the local share from the community when the final draft of the budget is presented. Again, this becomes very simple in the end of how we balance the budget and the final draft that we present to the community. First and foremost, really should have been up there. Obviously, we are going to apply all of the state aid that we receive. Our state aid will help to offset all of our expenditures. From there, we decide how much fund balance that we want to appropriate to the new budget to bring the levy to the point where the board is comfortable presenting that budget to the community. That has changed from year to year. The board has made different decisions. The one thing to keep in mind when you talk about appropriation of fund balance, what you appropriate one year is your starting point for your next year. Because if it's not, then it greatly increases the obligation of the local share of the budget. So raising your fund balance obviously is a great thing to reduce the levy. However, it has a ripple effect, and we just need to be mindful of how much we appropriate to the operating budget. And obviously, different ways to shape and affect the budget come in those items that I discussed on the last slide. Our program, our personnel, our facilities, and our transportation, which I admitted there accidentally as well. Prior slides were for the approval of the budget that we would present to the community. Many times there are resolutions also that come when we go to our annual vote. We currently have a capital reserve fund which will potentially help us fund some work that the board is endeavoring to do this year without asking to borrow additional money. Each year we look at efficiency savings, we look at our fuel costs, we look at not completing something or deferred maintenance, or speaking openly, if we didn't have a particular expense that we had anticipated during that year. That allows us to accrue fund balance. We have been able over time to make some savings to complete work throughout the district. The current capital reserve fund that we have is maxed out from where it could be for voter approval. If we choose to continue to try to save money for future work, the board needs to contemplate potentially creating another capital reserve fund. This is a resolution that we have used in the past. Again, I asked out the amount. We don't know how much the board would want to or would not want to ask the community to be allowed to save. Essentially what you're doing is you're creating another savings account to ask the community to put the money aside. You need to to do a boiler, if we need to do a roof, if we need to do paving, if we need to do modifications or upgrades to the interior of our buildings, that again, by saving this money, we don't have to go back later and ask them to borrow. We talked about this a moment ago. If we choose to have an ongoing cycle of updating our transportation vehicles, again, we would have to make the decision how much, how many, what do we want to borrow. This would only come into play again if the board continues to choose to borrow for those buses. Final piece is in relation to the capital improvement project that we have been discussing over the last few months that we'll need to make a final decision on to be able to move forward with. Obviously, we've been looking at specific roofing that needs to be updated. We know we have some roofs that are aged and we have some leaks. We have the federal monies that are available to us that will help us, that have to be, if we go to use them in facilities, have to be used specifically for air quality upgrades, health and safety upgrades within the building. Again, that money, as we spoke about during the work session that we had last time, is specifically $4,082,558. We do have the current capital reserve, which has $5 million in it. Again, we would have to look at the combination of work that the board would want to present to the public for consideration. Again, as a resolution that would exist in the annual operating, the approval for the operating budget for the 22-23 school year. So this is an early snapshot of where we stand with the budget process. Again, we're still working closely with principals and directors to determine what some of the expenditures will be. Mr. Linden has given you a very early draft 2 meetings ago. It's changed dramatically in the next meeting. When the principals and the directors come to you to present with what they are asking to be funded within their budget proposals for this year, he will be able to give you a line item update at that time as well in terms of where the budget is standing. I'd like to take any questions from there.
Question for me is, we've waited until March to get the state aid numbers. How confident are we in that state aid?
So if we look at this from an Albany perspective right now, you have both a Democratic governor and a Democratic legislature. Since the governor has released her executive budget proposal, there's been very little feedback from the legislature. Oftentimes, if history serves us well, the legislature actually increases the executive budget proposal. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but I think we have a decent level of confidence that that number is close, if not exact, to what we can anticipate for 22-23.
Okay, and then on the capital reserve fund, I would ask the board to think about, we've done about, since I've been on board, most of them $5 million reserve funds. I think we should look to increase that, considering all the work that we know we need to do here. I don't have a number in mind, but maybe we consider increasing that number.
So one of the things I just want to bring to the board's attention, regardless of the amount that you set in there is a time horizon under the law by which you must spend that money as well.
10 years.
10 years. And the other piece is just to share with the community as well. Equally as much as we have to ask the community to save that money, when we want to do work, we have to go back to the community again and ask them for the approval to be able to take that money out to spend it on whatever work we're going to do.
Yep.
Are there any restrictions?
So when you create a capital reserve fund, to be honest, you want to write the reserve language as broad and wide as you can, because you don't want to bind yourself in to say, we're saving just to do paving, we're saving just to do electrical. You literally write anything and everything possible that you might want to do in terms of work, so that way, 4 years from now, when we need to replace another roof, we can go back and say, this was in the language, community, we asked you to save, you said yes, now we're asking to be able to do that work. Very good.
Dr. Coates. Next on the agenda is the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, Personnel, and Technology report. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Fuji. Good evening, everyone. Two brief updates for the board this evening. Again, your bi-weekly update on the Choose Love program. So as many of you will recall, we did have a previously scheduled strategy session. Unfortunately, we had some poor weather conditions anticipated and we did reschedule. That meeting was held today at 3 o'clock. I believe we were very fortunate to have approximately 35 participants district-wide, including 4 members from the Choose Love team. Today they focused on presenting us with information gathered through the surveys that we sent out to both our elementary and secondary teachers, faculty, and staff members. It was quite impressive to see what they presented to us in the form of word clouds to begin. So, essentially what they did was they presented us with the most commonly used terms in individual opinions of what SEL actually is. We had great discussion that followed. And actually went into some breakout rooms. So, we had 10 to 15 minute conversations, just randomly grouped. I thought it was very productive. Following those discussions, we then were presented with 7 desired outcomes district-wide. Again, pulled directly from our surveys, both elementary and secondary. Once again, had some breakout sessions, great discussion. We were asked to create a Padlet, which will help us to address how we will choose to build upon those 7 desired outcomes. And that essentially will lead to the action steps, or the SMART goals, if you will, that our district will use. And that will also help the Choose Love team to present us with what they believe will be the proper curriculum match for both elementary and secondary. So that is the current stage that we are at. However, I do want to mention that we do have multiple teachers implementing pieces of Choose Love within their classrooms. Most notably at this point in time would be Mrs. Mancula, from Goshen Intermediate. She was certainly commended today for her efforts. There was actually a submission that was recognized by Choose Love, which I think is further proof that we do have this going on in our classrooms. And we also believe that if this continues, which we are very hopeful and actually will require it to continue, it'll set our students up for great success as K-12 on a quality SEL continuum. So that is the current status. We will continue to create the Padlet. That has to be done by this Friday. It will then be turned over to the Choose Love team, and they should get back to us quickly for our next step, which will be individualized building training. Secondly, Dr. Coates and I had discussed the need to update the district-wide K-12 guidance plan. This is really on the heels of what the Board of Education had suggested, or rather asked us to do through the board goals and objectives. So we're happy to do that. This is one of our primary goals as well. Right now, if I have just written down some brief goals, K-12, we're looking to establish the updated plan, focusing on college planning, of course, on the course planning with grades 6 through 12, and having an annual individual review process for student process within their educational plan. So that is an individualized yearly review. That's one of our goals. We're also looking at additional support services that can be provided. Of course, K-12, but right now we have a strong focus on our elementary population. Currently looking at staffing as a part of our larger goal. And then we're looking to develop an advisory council, of course, full of major stakeholder groups, community members, service providers, both within the community and within our school community. We're looking to involve all of our Board of Education members that wish to be a part of the advisory committee, teachers, administrators at the district and building level, and so on. And our goal is to have this advisory committee meeting at least twice a year to discuss the progress and proper implementation of our guidance plan. So again, our full cabinet was in attendance today. This was discussed, and we're moving on to our next steps. I do want to mention that this is something that we revisit yearly. Our administrative team at the building level, in addition to service providers, put together a comprehensive list of services and even lesson plans for the career side and the college readiness piece. Not last year, the year prior. So we've put in a lot of work in major revisions. And also right now you have Mrs. Martin at the high school putting in a great amount of research and work, and even putting together frameworks for the career readiness and the college readiness piece in addition to multiple services. So there is an ongoing piece here. However, as you see, our focus is on a comprehensive plan that can be established and then implemented. And that's where we're at with that. And that is it for me this evening. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Super eval, we talked about this, super eval.
So you should have gotten, you should have at least looked over to you that is framework. Okay, you can see that I put in a little suggestion.
Did everybody get an email about super eval? I don't hate it.
You can see the framework that I put in. I put everything that the board approved, I put in.
Yeah, I don't got And second, be remiss not to acknowledge here.
Good, how are you?
Student representative, sorry, I didn't know.
No, it's okay.
How are things?
Pretty good. I know you guys saw conflict. You and I have known each other for a while, but we were actually outside Sophia at the event. The senior team had their nice regional competition.
Yeah.
But we actually made our moving on to state competition.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Before I forget, but please put like all your thank you to Susan Malcolm, and Mrs. Lesser, Ms. Lesser, and Ms. Brittany all worked extremely hard to get us to go on stage, and I want to say them all names. And I hope you guys will too.
Great.
Best overall, right?
Yeah.
Best overall. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, was that in person or virtual?
Yes, it was our first in-person competition in 2 years.
Great. And states is where?
It's also in person. I think it's at a university. I forget which. It's but this is my first year as a C division. This is the high school level.
Okay.
But prior, I would go on at the middle school level. But it's been so long that I kind of just jumped right up.
Nice. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
There's no old business, we'll move to new business. All right, consent agenda first. I need a motion for the consent agenda. Sharon? Allison? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Board of Education accepts the retirement of Patricia Anderson, grade 5 teacher, effective June 30th, 2022. Ms. Anderson has been with the district for 23 years. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education accepts the retirement of Janice Marsiglia, family and consumer science teacher, effective July 1st, 2022. Ms. Marsiglia has been with the district for 19 years. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the remainder of the consent agenda as presented. All fair? Opposed? Like I said, no old business. And we have moved to new business. 12.1. The motion for the minutes, the regular meeting and the board workshop. Mike? Tom? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes for January 10th, 2022 regular board meeting and January 18th, 2022 board workshop. All fair? 12.2, I need a motion for to approve and accept the proposal from Land for the DCS and the 5-year capital facility. Jeremy? Allison. Be resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the proposal from Land Associates Engineering, Planning, Architecture, Surveying, LLP, known as LAN, dated January 18, 2022. To provide services relating to preparing a building condition survey and 5-year capital facility plan as per the following fee schedule. BCS, basic scope of work, $38,000. BCS, additional scope of work, $17,000. 5-year capital facilities plan, $20,000, combined sum of $75,000. Be resolved that the board authorizes the board president to execute the proposal letter. All fair? Opposed?
Seem surprised on that.
I know. I think it's fun. Usually it's the superintendent. I get the big money, right?
That's it.
12.3. Need a motion to approve the budgetary transfer. Facility expense. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the following budgetary transfer. Building condition survey dated 1/18/22, $81,000. All fair? Well, 24. Closing a extra classroom activity fund. Need a motion? Huh? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools that the following account within the extra classroom activity fund at Goshen High School be closed, and that the remaining funds be transferred to another extra classroom activity fund account at Goshen High School as follows. Upon the close, pending negotiation, transfer the funds to the student senate, $206.55. All in favor? Opposed? Procedural thing, I think. Good. You're not part of the school? Correct. Student big club, that's why we have to do that. Procedural.
Is there a stipend?
12.5, Dr. Coates went over the student calendar for 22-23. Good, okay. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education adopts the 2022-23 student calendar as presented. All in favor? Crazy. 22-23. I'm barely in 22. Still right in 21, I'm checking. Still right, Chuck. I know, I'm kidding myself. I don't know why, geez.
They won't put it out there.
Give the guy a break. 12.6, need a motion to approve the audit engagement letter from Nugent Hausler. That's for our external audit. Jeremy, Allison? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the audit engagement letter dated January 12, 2022 from Nugent Hausler PC related to the external audit of the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. All in favor? Opposed? 12.7, need a motion to approve the ratification of the hardship waiver. Tom? Pleasure. Be resolved, the Board of Education hereby ratifies the signing by the Board President, Superintendent of Schools, Goshen Teachers Association President, and Goshen Administrators Association President of the SED's Undue Burden Independent Evaluator Hardship Waiver Certification, covering the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, to allow for the continuation of filing an APPR plan that is compliant with the requirements of 3012-G of the education law. All there? Opposed? 12.8, this is the proposal for the proposed capital project. I need a motion. Jeremy? I look all over. It's okay. They resolve that the Board of Education hereby approves the proposal from Land Associates Engineering Planning Architecture Surveying LLP, dated January 25th, 2022, to provide services relating to a proposed capital project to include but not limited to HVAC improvements, to improve indoor air quality as well as roof replacements and or restorations based on an hourly rate schedule for 2022 at a cost not to exceed $10,000 for such services. Be resolved that the board authorizes the board president to execute the proposal letter. All in favor? Opposed? 12.9, we have a donation. A motion to accept donation of upright bass, gluten, clarinet. Be resolved, the Board of Education does hereby accept with appreciation the donation of an upright bass, flute, and clarinet from Athena Giovannis for use by the music department and students of the Goshen Central School District. All here? Opposed? 12.10, need a motion to approve agreement for certified occupational therapy assistant services. Billy? Jeremy? Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Board of Education approves the agreement with C. Ameri, provides certified occupational therapy assistant of CODA services. Effective February 28, 2022 through June 24, 2022 at a rate of $32 per hour for up to 28 hours per week. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute the contract. All there? Opposed? Next on the agenda is privilege of the floor. Board member issues? And I need a motion to go into executive session. Joe? Sure. Be resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent not to reconvene the business portion of the meeting for discussion relating to the employment history of a particular person or persons. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.